So this is my plan A, loiding, and I'm going to give you a definition of what loiding is here. So it is the art of using a housebreaking implement to push back a latch on a locked door, for example, with a shove knife. So if we look at these two pictures below, the one on the left, that's a commercially made shove knife, and the one on the right, that's probably a homemade one. I bet you that's like a paint scraper that they just cut a notch into to make a homemade shove knife. Now understand, this will only work on spring-loaded latches with beveled edge. So again, if you look at these two pictures, those are both spring-loaded bevel latch, and those are normally found on regular doorknobs. Okay, so when you turn that doorknob, it retracts the latch. That's how that works. But important to know, it only works on those latches. This does not work on deadbolts. I'm just going to go through some example tools here of stuff that we can use. So shove knife, this is probably the most common one. The firefighter swipe tool. So I'll just explain here. Usually shove knives, we use them on outward opening doors. And if you can just think of an outward opening door, normally you can visualize the latch that's from the door going into the frame. You can normally see it on an outward opening door. On an inward opening door, which is in this picture here, you can't see that because the door stop is in the way. All right, so the firefighter swipe tool, it's actually made by an FDNY firefighter. You can go get a plastic jug and just cut a piece of plastic out. It might not work as well. But literally you could make one of these at home. And all it is doing, you use this piece of plastic to wrap behind the door stop to attack the latch. And it's an old school trick. If you've ever heard of the credit card trick, that's where this comes from. Okay, so let's get back to loiding. Now, understand, we can't forget about the deadlatch when we talk about loiding. So let's talk about this process. Sometimes doors are installed incorrectly, which makes loiding really easy. If the door is installed correctly, though, you have to take the deadlatch out of the equation. So just in case you're wondering what a deadlatch is, we can look at these two pictures. This one on the bottom left, this is your typical key and knob lock. It's showing you this is a spring-loaded bevel latch, and then on the back of it, there's a pin, and that's called the deadlatch. And basically, when a door is installed correctly, the deadlatch will be recessed or depressed, and then you can't attack the latch with a shove knife. If it's not installed correctly, the deadlatch won't be depressed or recessed, and then you can attack the latch. If we look at this lock on the right, so this is just a different style of lock. It's a Adams Wright mortise style lock that you'd find on an aluminum storefront door. But it too, spring-loaded bevel latch, showing here, and that bottom one is a deadlatch. And same thing, if it's pressed in, you can't attack that latch. So here I just got a video. So you can see the latch will retract. As soon as that pin is depressed though, you can't attack that latch with your shove knife. Okay, and I'll show you the lock on the right. This is my storefront door. Same thing, when that deadlatch is extended, you can attack the lock, but as soon as it's recessed, your shove knife attempts will be futile. Okay, so now let's talk about door installation, just so we're all on the same page here. The keeper is the hole drilled into the door frame that the latch falls into. So you can see there's a picture on the right here. That's a keeper. The piece of metal on the outside, this is a strike plate. Okay, so when I shut the door, the latch from the doorknob falls into that keeper. It's as simple as that. Now, on a correctly installed door, the spring-loaded bevel latch will fall into the keeper, but the deadlatch doesn't. And the reason it doesn't fall in is because that strike plate holds it recessed, which means you can't attack the latch. Okay, sometimes keeper holes are too big though, and the deadlatch falls into it, making it susceptible to loiding. And that's what I call an incorrectly installed door. So hopefully this little video, I'm using a strike plate here. As you can imagine, this is hard to video on a real door. But if it's installed correctly, the spring-loaded bevel latch will fall into the keeper, but the deadlatch doesn't. You can see that it's being depressed by the strike plate. If the door's not installed correctly, the deadlatch is going to fall into the keeper, and then you can attack that latch with a shove knife. So again, that would be an incorrectly installed door, and that's good news for me. Okay, so this door in this video, it's not installed correctly, which means the dead latch is not engaged on it. It's an outward swinging aluminum storefront door with a mortise style Adams right slam latch. And I'm just pointing out what I just did there. I just did a door size up here. And even through the lock, size up is pretty important to me. The dead latch is not depressed due to the large gap between the door and the frame. And just so you understand what this still shot is looking at, this part on the right-hand side, this is the door, this is the frame. You can see this is the spring-loaded bevel latch, and then this is the dead latch. And because the gap between the door and the frame is so big, this dead latch isn't even depressed or recessed as the way it should be. Okay, so it's not installed correctly, and this makes for an easy Lloyd with the shove knife.
So here's an aluminum storefront door, really big gap here, which is helping us have this dead latch not activated. So Ian is going to show you how to use the shove knife behind the latch. Door's open.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ian. That's one of my coworkers. Just to explain, because I mean, it's easy. I can show how to break into doors, but hopefully you understand the action that we're actually doing with the shove knife. And it is as simple as hooking it around the latch, and then you're just slowly wiggling it to get that latch to fall into its own hole, if you want to call it that. Okay, so just little wiggles, and then it will hold it in the hole. I'll do a quick size up. So, well, first I'll point out again, this door is not installed properly. The keeper's too big and the dead latch has fallen into it. And honestly, you won't know this until you try your firefighter swipe tool or this piece of plastic, whatever you have on you. This is an inward swinging metal door, metal frame, and it's a key and knob lock. The keeper on this door is too big, allowing the dead latch to fall into it. And this makes for an easy Lloyd with our firefighter swipe tool. This is another one of my coworkers doing this video, and I really like that she was smart enough to try the door to make sure it was locked. I apologize, most of my other videos, I kind of forgot that point.
Like that.
So that, again, that piece of plastic, because you can attack that latch, all it does is eventually it holds it shut and then the door pops open for you. Now, like I said, you're not going to know until you try. And normally it either happens really easy, and if you're fighting it a lot, then the door's probably installed correctly and you're going to have to go move on to another plan. Okay, now, so here's the question. What if the door is installed properly? We have to take the dead latch out of the equation. So a lot of times we can do this by creating space, and that's going to extend the dead latch. So you can see, I'm just slowly showing how slowly, if we can create space so that dead latch isn't depressed, now we can attack the latch again. I'll play this video one more time. So here's a properly installed door where it's recessed, but as we create space, now that latch becomes susceptible again. And you might only need about 1 centimeter of space. And I'll say 1/4 of an inch for those of you who don't like metric. Okay, so back to Lloyding. So this door is installed correctly. So we're going to take this dead latch out of the equation by gently prying this door. So this is an outward swinging aluminum storefront door with a mortise style Adams right slam latch lock. This door is installed correctly, meaning the dead latch is depressed. So I'll just point out here, this is the door on the right side, this is the frame, this is the spring-loaded bevel latch, and you can barely see that dead latch here because it is actually depressed in this video. So I'm going to use the Halligan bar to gently pry the door to create space to disengage the dead latch, and then we can attack it with a shove knife.
So again, another aluminum storefront door. This gap's way tighter, so the dead latch is activated. I'm going to use my Halligan bar just to create a gap here. So as you see, I put pressure, creates a gap. Now Ian should be able to pick that latch again. Door's open.
Okay, so there's a lot of people who always worry about using a Halligan on those aluminum storefront doors because they're worried if you put too much pressure, you're gonna smash the glass. I can say I've actually had really good experience. I haven't smashed any glass yet by accident by using too much pressure on those doors. So don't be afraid to use some light pressure for those doors. Here's another door. This time I'm going to use a force wedge to create space. So this is a metal door, metal frame. You can see a cipher lock again. This door is installed correctly, meaning the dead latch is depressed or recessed. I'm going to use the force wedge to create space so the dead latch is no longer activated.
So here we have another outward swinging commercial steel door. This gap's really tight, so I can attack this with a shove knife because there's no guard here. But again, because the gap's so tight, I need to create space so this dead latch isn't activated. So I'm going to do that with this force wedge here.
I mean, look at that. Look at how much that door moved.
My new gap created. Should be pretty easy to attack this.
There, my knife just slipped there. I had to restart.
Take my wedge out.
That's an important step. Take the wedge out or you can't open the door.